we often forget what the early web felt like. There was a time where every click meant waiting, where even checking your email required a full-page reload. Before the web became a seamless stream of data, it was a fragmented experience. This is the story of how the web began to move beyond those limits. How a simple, elegant format called JSON reshaped the way data moves online. In the early 2000s, the web was a document platform, not an application platform. Data didn't flow freely. It was trapped inside pages. Websites were built as a collection of static documents, frozen in time until the next reload. Every interaction, like clicking a button, submitting a form, triggered a request for an entirely new page. And while the server was working, the browser could do nothing but wait. When the response finally came, it wasn't just the data you asked for, it was a brand new document, delivered all over again. Back then, the industry standard for exchanging structured data was XML. It was powerful and widely adopted, but it was built for documents, not fast interactions. For every single request, you were forced to deal with massive structural overhead. You had to construct layers of tags just to transport a few simple values. Parsing XML in the browser was slow, and debugging the endless nesting of tags was a constant headache. One of the people facing this problem was Douglas Crockford. At the time, Crockford was working at a company called Veil Networks. They were not trying to invent a new data format. Veil wanted to build a platform that could update the browser dynamically. They wanted to send data from the server and change the interface without refreshing the page, what we now call SPA or single page application. To make that work, they didn't need heavy documents. They needed something lightweight, structured, and easy to move between server and browser. But the tools available at the time were still rooted in the document-centric web. And that gap was becoming impossible to ignore. And it showed up in the browsers themselves. At the time, two browsers ruled the web: Microsoft's Internet Explorer and Netscape Navigator. Internet Explorer had a powerful new feature called XML HTTP request, which allowed data to load in the background without reloading the page. But there was a catch. It worked reliably only in Internet Explorer. Netscape, the other dominant browser of the era, didn't support it. For the Veil Networks team, this wasn't acceptable. They needed something universal, a way to move data that could pass through firewalls, work across browsers, and require no plugins. Up until then, industry assumed that transferring data required a complex, dedicated language like XML, but Crockford and his team stopped and asked a different question. Why invent a new data format at all? And this is where the real breakthrough happened, because every browser already had JavaScript, and JavaScript already had exactly what they needed: objects, arrays, strings, numbers, and booleans. So instead of inventing something new, they did something radical. They sent JavaScript object literals directly from the server to the browser. At first, they called this idea JSML, JavaScript Message Language. But the name caused confusion with existing Java technologies, so they changed it to JSON, JavaScript Object Notation. The first implementation was raw, and it led to a legendary bug that defined the strict syntax we use today. In an early test, the team sent a simple message containing the word do. But the browser immediately crashed. Why? Because do is a reserved keyword in JavaScript in do-while loops. Since they were feeding raw text straight into the JavaScript engine, the parser tried to execute the word instead of reading it. To fix this, they decided to put reserved keywords in quotes. But then they realized, why stop there? For the sake of consistency and ease of use, they decided to mandate that all keys must be wrapped in quotes. This turned out to be a brilliant accident. When the web eventually adopted Unicode, those mandatory quotes made it safe to use complex characters and international languages as keys. This simple rule made JSON globally compatible. With keys now quoted, Crockford faced a new question. Which quotes? Single or double? While JavaScript accepts both, C-family languages like Java, C, and C++ strictly require double quotes. To ensure JSON was easy to parse across all platforms, Crockford mandated double quotes. It was a small decision with a huge payoff: universal compatibility. With the syntax finally settled, Crockford next approached the IETF to make JSON an official standard. He proposed the MIME type text/JSON to emphasize its human readability. The IETF rejected it, arguing that text types carry legacy encoding defaults that could misinterpret and corrupt the data. Although Crockford didn't agree with this technical argument, he knew he had to compromise to get the standard approved. He accepted the IETF's terms, and JSON was registered as application/JSON. It wasn't what he wanted, but it was the only way to move forward. This historical compromise is the reason we still use MIME type application/JSON in our API requests and responses. In its early days, JSON had a critical security flaw. Because JSON is valid JavaScript, developers often took a shortcut by using eval function to read it, but eval executes code rather than just parsing data, leaving applications wide open to injection attacks. Crockford solved this by releasing a library which introduced the safe methods json.parse and json.stringify. This approach was so effective that browser vendors adopted it natively. With a secure built-in parser, JSON evolved from a risky hack into a first-class citizen of the web. So, why did JSON win? Why did it ultimately replace XML as the standard for the web? The secret is one philosophical choice. Douglas Crockford realized that to create a truly universal data format, you shouldn't unite all data structures from every language. You should capture only the intersection. He realized that if JSON tried to support every specific type, like specific number types from C or date objects from Java, it would become impossible to parse universally. So JSON only includes the primitives, common to almost all modern languages. Because JSON maps to the fundamental structures of computer science, every programmer looks at it and recognizes their own code. JSON won by choosing simplicity over completeness, giving the web a small set of universal building blocks instead of a complex, fragile system. Today, JSON is the backbone of the internet. From configuration files to the APIs that power modern apps. It succeeded not because it was the most feature-rich format, but because it was the most humble. It did not try to create a new way to represent information. It simply revealed a pattern that already existed. Sometimes the most powerful standards aren't invented. They're discovered.